now, and essentially I'll take you to our office account. So this is actually looking at that same system that we've just been configuring essentially in the back end. Also, a thing of note before we jump too far into this, we do actually have a live camera feed of that office. So you can actually see that the time actually matches where I am. So it is live. So as we make changes to this throughout the demo, we can actually look and see what happens in that space to actually, if we turn something on, turn it off, we can actually monitor that as well as our sort of you automate scripts and things like that. Okay. So this is Umanage. Is accessed through multi-factor authentication by default. However, we do support single sign-on should you want to use that via either Azure AD or Okta. And essentially, the first page that we come to is going to be our dashboards. So within dashboards, we never start you off with a blank piece of paper. We do now have we have a standard dashboard pack essentially that comes with every Umanage account. However, these dashboards are fully configurable, so you can start from scratch, or you can take a copy of one of those standard pack and make the changes that you need to make that suit your business needs. So as a quick overview, we have 7 standard dashboards. The first one we come to is going to be our general dashboard, and essentially this covers all aspects of the system, but in not great detail. So you can kind of just get an overview of what the kind of information we can gather. So for example, you can see where that room is in the world, and you can see how many, currently we're looking at rooms with alerts, and you can see where those rooms are geolocated on a map. We can also see system summary. So for example, total number of rooms and, how many rooms currently have alerts, how many are in use or in a call. We can see all of those, those stats at a glance. And then we can also start to look at some asset information. So for example, this is just a quick breakdown of all of the manufacturers that we have on site. So things like, you can see we've got 1 Cisco and 2 Gouda and 1 Lightware in our demo environment. However, on a typical customer estate, obviously there'll be a majority, to a few manufacturers. Coming a bit further down, one of the few things we can see is going to be our active alert. So essentially this is the flashing red light. Something's gone wrong on this estate, and we actually need someone to come in and have a look at it to see if they can resolve whatever issue that is. So right now you can see in our boardroom, we currently have 2 alerts, both related to poly touch panels being disconnected. So essentially we're missing the touch panel from our demo environment. And then you can also see we've got our demo area. We're missing our Tascam recorder at the moment. The final piece on this dashboard is going to be our historical alerting. So actually looking at what has gone wrong, not necessarily what's wrong right now, but actually a look back to see what we've done well or what's been causing us the most pain over the last period. So you can actually see here that when we've just moved office, we actually had 79% of our alerts caused by a singular Sony device, and again 96% of our alerts are connection based. However, if we know what that issue is and it's now being resolved, we can filter that out of our dashboards, and we can actually get a better breakdown of what are our biggest causes of pain on the system. So for example, you can see that currently Utelogy, again, that's going to be things like our Windows MTRs and other elements like that, or even just our our self-healing scenarios and those kind of elements. They're going to be the ones that are causing us the most alerts. But manufacturer-wise, it's going to be neat, and again, purely because that's in our demo, so we're going to be turning that on and off as we go through. Other alerts you can see here, they're not just all connection-based. So actually for the subject of the alert, we can see things like, again, self-healing, so how many times the system has self-recovered itself without human intervention. We can also see things like, overnight active room checks, where we can actually see that the test has failed because that system, something was not right in that space when we did that active room check. So essentially we failed to check for a technician to go and look at. And then the same thing, we've got our evening power ons, morning power offs, and then actually just an alert that tells us when a display's been switched off as part of the demo.